My name is Madison Birtcher, and I am attempting the 96 to 100 grade. So the bot that I created, it takes a list of new clients from Excel and it creates audit engagement letters for each of those clients. Now, I thought this would be a good bot to create because it is simple and repeatable. Over the summer, I had a job where my boss would give me a list of new clients every so often and ask me to create the audit engagement letters, and it was a pretty tedious process to go through each word, to open a Word document for each new client and go through each document looking for certain words to replace. So I've created a bot that will do this for me. So the first part of my bot asks for a file location so that you can get this so that this bot would work on any computer. And you can see it saves it in the variable called file location, very similar to what we've been doing in class. Now, the next step in the process is to open the Excel worksheet and to get the data. And so it reads by using read range, it selects all the data that's in that Excel worksheet and creates a data table for it, which is this variable right here. Next, the bot creates a copy of the audit engagement letter. And so here's a loop that says for each row in the data table, the overall thing it will do is for each row in the data table, create a new file, a copy of the master engagement file. Now, one interesting thing is this try-catch activity. So what the try-catch activity does is if an error is prompted, for example, if I already had a file saved in this location that was the same as what it was trying to create, then this would give an error and say, okay, we can't create another file named the same thing, but we'll continue and go to the next row and see if we can create a copy of that client. So for example, I thought that this would be good if, my boss gives me a list that already has a client that we've already created an audit engagement letter for. Then this would say, oh no, we've already created something here, don't do it again, just move on. And then the last part of the bot, it opens that new file that it created and it replaces the words. So this was where I did some learning, which is why I'm trying to go through the 96 to 100. I looked up how you could replace a word throughout a whole Word document, because you don't want to have to go and look for each of those instances. And I found out that you have to use a Word application scope, so I installed this through my managed packages, and then I used this new activity, which is pretty similar to a write cell activity, but it is new, and it replaces the text. So it searches for this text within the Word document and it replaces it with what you want it to. And so I did this for the name, the address, the balance sheet date, and here I wanted to use an if-else statement. And so what I did was I checked for the fees. If a fee had not been written into the Excel sheet for the clients, then I could assume, and this is what my boss would tell me, is that the fees were still being negotiated. And so this would be, but they still wanted to create a preliminary letter. And so this checks to say, oh, is there anything in the fees box? Because if there isn't, then we want to change this to saying, oh, the fee is not this price, it is still being negotiated. Whereas if there is a price listed, then the fee changes from the range. So, just to give a little showing of what's in the Excel worksheet. So you can see there's the client name, the address, city, state, zip, the management representation name, the low range and the high range and the firm name. So you can see here is one instance where the Word document should not say low range to high range. It should say we are still negotiating for this core mining company. And in the audit engagement letter, you can see here's what it's going to search for, things in parentheses, and it should replace those with the information found in the Excel worksheet. Here's where the fees are discussed. Okay, let's see if it works. I'm going to copy this location and begin the bot. So it asked me for the file path. And you can see open the Excel worksheet really quickly. It copied that data, and now it's going into each of those new files that it's created and replacing the text with the information found in the Excel file. Now we're on Aon. Luckily, there's only 5 companies, and so this shouldn't take too long. Alright, so let's check, make sure it worked. For example, let's check McDonald's. It should say 10 million to 12 million. The management person is David Wood, McDonald's. So we open up this new engagement letter that's been created. You can see the name of the company is correct, and the address has been changed, as well as the person who this is addressed to and the balance sheet date. If we scroll further, we see that there's the fee, and if we go even further, we see here's the firm name. This is who is conducting the audit and who it's addressed to. Now let's go look at this one where the if-else then statement should have enacted. And so we see that in the fees part, instead of saying what fees are going to be used, it has changed to say the fees are still being negotiated. So it looks like that works, which is good. Now I'm going to run this bot one more time to show you how the try-catch activity works. So let's say that we still had Aon in here because we already knew that they were a client. We already created an engagement letter for them. We're going to copy this file path, and I'm also going to bring up the output box to show, because when the error occurs, this should tell me an error has occurred. We're not going to copy the file. So I'm going to close out of the Excel and run the bot again. Now I'm going to bring up UiPath so it shows. File already exists and was not copied. However, you can see in the background that it is going on for the other clients that it did work for. So it opened that one and said, oh, this one's already been copied. We're not doing anything to it. And there you see. Let's just check to make sure things worked again. Let's check Navy Pier. You can see the client name has been changed and the address. The balance sheet date has been changed. The fees have been changed. And so it looks like the bot is working correctly. And that's my project.